Welcome to another episode of the Angels Positivity and Love Show. Incredible guests the world over with amazing insights, experiences, and super high vibe. Typically, they're helping others, they're giving service to others, which is really the highest path or calling one can have. Today, coming to us from Scotland, an amazing internationally known psychic medium, but she's also a mentor to others, helping them cultivate or own what they've already got in terms of intuitive skills. So Karen Docherty is coming to us from Scotland. She's wonderful. She's been in the business for a while and has been on many podcasts all over. Karen, great to meet you. Great to have you on the show.
And nice to be here, Michael. Thank you.
Okay, you've done a lot, you've seen a lot, you've been there. What are a couple of quick, big picture takeaways as a reminder to us all that it's always easier than we think it is because it's not about thinking? What are just some quick points you would want to make for us all to appreciate?
I think just reminding yourselves that, we're all spirit first and foremost. I think, as humans and as we live this life and go forward through this life, it's really easy to forget that. It's not about religion, it's not about, how you've been raised or anything like that. Obviously, that plays a massive part in your understanding of things. But really, if you can remind yourself that you're spirit first and foremost, which means listening to that inner voice, listening to that higher self, which we all have, even if you have walked a path of not believing in spirit or not knowing what to believe or following a certain religion, you all have that inner voice. We all hear that within ourselves. So even connecting to that and reminding yourself that that is where connection lies, it really does make life just that little bit easier. So I would urge everyone to kind of try and hear their voice, try and feel that, try and center themselves, and it just makes life a bit easier.
Thank you. Life has a lot of ebb and flow. Welcome to being human. What's a moment in your life that you love when you can remember to recollect on? An experience where maybe the universe stepped in. To this day, when you think of it, that moment, maybe you ran into a stranger with sparkly eyes, you still shake your head and you still are amazed that something like that happened.
Do you know what? I think there's been a lot of them. I've been really blessed in a way that I've been able to, things have been highlighted to me, I feel, along my journey, especially with my mediumship. And I think that that's probably the main one that I would use as an example was I was, working in a normal 9 to 5 job in sales. And I was, at the time, it was out in the field. So basically knocking doors, speaking to people, that kind of thing. It was for an energy company. And I worked with my mother at the time. She worked for the same company. So her and I would go out to the same streets and kind of take one side of the street each and meet at the end of the road and so on and so forth. So this day I was out doing my work and she was working the other side of the street. And she knew that I had this interest in mediumship, my mum. She was always aware of what I would talk about and spirit and everything with it. And I happened to knock on this lady's door who started to just talk about it randomly, like really out of the blue, speak about the spirit world and other realms and all of that. And I'd said to her, I really like that and I'm really into that as well. And we kind of had this conversation. But right at that point, she said to me, oh, well, I feel like I've been told to tell you to go across to the woman across the street who runs a development group for this. She's a medium, you've got to go across. So I said, oh, okay, then I'll go across and leave my name with her and, just a general chat. When I went across, my mum was at that door speaking to the lady about my work and what I do and what I love, and what I wanted to be involved in. And it all kind of just came together in the most amazing way. And so that really sparked my development for my work because at that time I didn't know what was going on. I knew spirit and I knew the communication, but I didn't know what to do with it.
And we're still going to jump around a little before we go to a normal sounding podcast here, our show. But talk to us about dream time. Can you share something similar in dream time that you recall that was special?
I dream every night. And it's, you say, some people will say, oh, I never dream. As soon as I close my eyes, that's me sleeping and I know nothing else until the morning. Well, for me, every single night something plays out. There's not been a night that I haven't had dreams. But sometimes, as expected, they're just like a mishmash of nonsense and your brain catching up with everything. Other times things have stood out to me, like what angels coming into my dreams or spirits speaking to me or my own loved ones coming to visit, which obviously is not a dream, it's more of a visit. So I've had quite a few different experiences. Another thing in dream time that was big for me was astral travel. I again didn't know what it was, didn't know what was happening, and this was before really I started to develop my mediumship. And it happened most nights. I knew that when I was going to sleep and kind of falling into my sleep, I knew that I was going somewhere, and I kept saying to people, it's like if I go, I know I'm going somewhere, but I don't know where I'm going. So I stopped myself. And this happened months and months and months. And then eventually I was like, no, I'm just going to surrender to this and see what it is. And the memories I have of that, like traveling so quickly over the rooftops of houses. And I remember saying to my mum one day, I was in your house last night. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, I was in your home. I could hear you sleeping in your bedroom. I can hear you breathing. And I know that such and such is on the kitchen table. Your purse is there. There's flowers there. And I described the layout of the kitchen that evening. And I knew that I'd been there. So the astral travel for me was a big thing for a long time. And it only obviously happens when you're going to sleep at night or when your body or your brain's trying to rest, I suppose. I've seen sights in Alaska. I knew I was in Alaska. And, I woke up in the morning and it said, oh, I was in Alaska last night. I seen big tall trees and there was these people there, indigenous, and I could describe everything. And that always happens through what we call dream time.
Oh, I love this. And we're going to explore this in just 1 second a little bit more. But you've been on a bunch of shows, especially lately, and Untethered Consciousness down in Australia. Rod Bland, the show host, has been a guest here, and he shared similar experiences. So I want to point that out to the people watching who want to maybe dive into another version of it and check out Rod's appearance. Can you tell us a little bit more, give us a little bit more flavor? And where are you today with it? Is it something you teach? Can you put more structure definition to it? I know, it's hard to grasp what you can't grasp, but we all want to do it. And so any description you can give would be great.
The thing is, for me, it's not something that happens all the time. It's something that happens when it happens. So for me, I don't teach it. It's something I know about because of my experience with it, but it's not something that I think people need to go and look for. I feel really strongly about things happening quite spontaneously for people. And that's not to say you can't develop if like let's say someone feels that something's happening, like I did, but they didn't know what it is. That's different. I feel then you can kind of delve into that a little bit and try to develop it or understand it a little bit more and surrender to it. Surrender is a big word with any of this work. But I don't really think that people need to put structure on it. I feel like it shouldn't be structured. I feel the opposite. I feel like let's just see what happens. And I think now with a lot of teachings out there and a lot of knowledge out there, let's say, I think there's too much emphasis on we need to understand this, we need to know how it works, we need to control this, we need to do that. We shouldn't really be doing any of that. It should really be coming from the soul, coming from the spirit. So I would say to anyone, if you are experiencing something like this, try to understand it, read about it, that's fine, and try to surrender. But aside of that, it's not something I would go looking for.
Okay, now we're going to still do a little bit of structure in terms of you've got a way that you view the universe, the cosmos, Earth, however you want to call it, reality. Um, how do you describe either angels, other loving beings, religious figures, non-religious figures that are still unconditional love? Are we alone in the universe? Could you paint that picture or the landscape for us a little bit?
I don't feel that we are alone at all in the universe. I feel that we are all connected through the higher power. Now, people call it different things, Great Spirit, God, many different ways of naming this or putting a name to it. But really, it's just a higher level. It's a higher level of consciousness. It's a higher spirit, higher realms. And when people talk about angels, to me, and this is a very personal thing to everyone because you get so many conflicting things out there that I just say to people, it's got to resonate within you. So I can only speak from my experience. And for me, angels, higher beings, that sort of thing, guides, spirit teams, they come from higher realms in the spirit side. They're not maybe people that have walked the earth at times. They're higher beings. But we're all connected. There's not separate worlds. There are worlds within worlds, is the way that I see it.
And do you have another experience? Last one of these questions for a little bit. Do you have another one of these experiences that you might be able to share where you might have been just sitting still, eyes closed, meditating, or just taking a nap, or again, sleeping overnight, where you've met with a group of loving beings of any type or a mix, relatives, angels, some other figures? Is there one more of those personal stories you could share?
I can share a very personal story of what I would say was in my early days of understanding my mediumship, where I was doing a meditation. I was part of a group meditation, and I was suddenly transported, I would say, to an earlier life, an earlier time. And it was more to do with Native Americans and on this ground. And I knew it was sacred ground. I didn't know where it was, but I knew it was sacred ground. And I remember in that experience, I was there. I was part of that. I was part of everyone that was there. And I just remember the smells. I remember the ground around me. I remember what I seen. I remember feeling the touch of someone. I remember feeling someone's hair, and it was all very, very real. And I knew in that moment that I was part of that at some point. I knew it. There was just no other way. And when I came out of that meditation, there was tears rolling down my face. The emotion was incredible. And since then, all these years on, I've sometimes gone back into those experiences. So I know that there is a connection with previous times, previous lives, some people call it. But for me, that again shows the connection. And people talk about, having regression and things like that. That's not something I particularly, it's not that I agree or don't agree, but a lot of people do it. I feel like we're supposed to be living in the now. We're supposed to be having this human experience. So I don't get too caught up or obsessed with past lives and everything, but there is a connection nevertheless.
Okay, and I'm going to throw a few things out there and see which part of whatever you want to comment on. But is it possible, in your view, that past lives are actually concurrent and sort of the more love you do in this moment bleeds over or expands out? And so it's show love always, really, in this lifetime, in this present moment. Talk to us about a little bit, if you wish, about past lives a little bit more, or just go straight into love, compassion, kindness, and how it really counts.
I think that the love side of it, of course, really counts, the compassion, the understanding, all of that. I think that how you carry yourself in life really counts. But as we know, it's not as simple as that in life. People are conditioned in certain ways, they have certain upbringings, they have certain experiences that might taint in some way, their ability to be compassionate all the time or loving or empathetic. And I think really what we have to remember is that when we come from the spirit world into this human existence, this human journey, we are all pure. We come from the spirit world. There's nothing that we come here with that would condition us that way. So then life conditions us, certain things that we might have to live through as children, or certain things that happen to us, or personality or outside influence can change things. So as much as I can say and always would that compassion is important, empathy, kindness, and it does carry your soul forward and it does enhance who you are, it's not always easy to be like that. And we have all come across experiences in life where maybe we've met someone who's not at that level, or maybe us ourselves have gone through things that we've had to learn the hard way to be more compassionate and such like. So it's not cut and dried, but I do think that when you carry kindness, when you carry compassion, when you carry understanding, yes, it definitely advances you and who you are.
And I've got a quote from a NASA astronaut, Story Musgrave, and that's going to launch the next question, which is when you got fully comfortable with your skills, helping others, and when did it become totally rewarding here? But here's the quote: getting out of the comfortable path, getting out of the comfortable path, that's what exploration is all about. Story Musgrave, NASA astronaut. Talk to us about that dynamic of, up here, there's a little bit of resistance or a lot. Welcome to being human. And then you got into what you do full swing. Talk to us about what you love about it and when you got super comfortable.
I think I remember, well, I know that I remember when I first sat in that development group and was able to realize what this was that I had. Because before then, as a child and growing up and through my teenage years, I knew that there was spirit people and I knew they were from the spirit world, and I had plenty of experiences of picking things up, picking communication up, but I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it. And it was quite overwhelming at times as well. But when I sat within that development group, I remember feeling from spirit like this is me home. This is who I am. This is me. And it was a huge feeling, and it's never left me since that moment. So it didn't take me any certain amount of time once I was working with it to have that feeling. I had that feeling the minute I felt I was home, and I was going to be able to be me and everything that I was supposed to be. And I think that that was a big change for me from battling it or resisting it or having conflicting thoughts and having people saying to me, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's not, you shouldn't be talking about spirit, or, you shouldn't be dabbling in that. And they were kind of understandably worried or whatever, they didn't have the knowledge. But for me, I finally got to feel like I am about to live my soul's purpose. And it was amazing. And that feeling has never left. And every reading that I do, and every event that I do, and every teaching that I do, I still feel that.
Thank you. And for your cheerleading squad, you have a big cheerleading squad, but how do you describe it and how do you tap in for either a typical session, helping a client, or just in general? Is it specific voices? You've got top five angels. Is it just a collective voice? How do you paint this picture?
Well, I call it my spirit team, and there's different guides and helpers and teachers at different times. So it's like going to school when you're in, you know, well, we call it primary school here in Scotland, but when you're in, your first point of going to school, you get that level of teaching. When you go through the differences in school when you're growing older, you get different teachers to teach you different things. And it's much the same in the spirit world. You're going to have a host of guides and helpers and a team, and they will come in and out at different times. And once you get to kind of know your guides a little bit more, and you're never going to know them all, but if you can form relationships with some of your guides, you soon get to know who's coming in at what point. So when I'm demonstrating mediumship, it's not like I'm in a room with 200 people and I suddenly feel a certain guide coming forward. It doesn't work like that. It's just that I know they are there. It's the faith in that I know which guide's going to help me with that. And then, which guide's going to maybe help or oversee my teaching when I'm teaching students. So it's different guides and helpers for different things, but there's not I wouldn't angels, for instance, I feel like angels are of the highest realm, and I feel that angels are there collectively, to help and for the world and humanity and all of that kind of thing. But for guides, for my guides, I have different relationships with some of my guides. I don't know them all, but maybe I've built relationships with five or six of them at least over that time. So it can be quite rewarding because you develop a conversation with them and you know their personality and their character as they show you that as you work with them, which is lovely as well.
Okay, now the next question, it may be just yes, and you don't have to get into any detail, but maybe you do want to share a little bit of detail. If you're in Hawaii in a lounger, the waves are really gentle, just an inch of water coming up underneath the chair, you're relaxed, and you want to just have a casual conversation. Do you have a favorite guide or angel that would be the one for sure that you could get a good conversation going with?
I mean, yes, I think that usually it's about communicating with your higher self first and foremost. I think that there's an awful lot of emphasis on speaking to your guides all the time, speaking to your team all the time. But I don't feel like that's your first port of call. I think your first port of call should be your higher self, because your higher self, which is the higher part of your spirit, which is this part that's connected to the spirit world, has all the knowledge, it has all the wisdom. You have everything within you. It's just that you have to learn to develop that and learn to tap into that. Aside of that, if I am speaking to guides or helpers about certain things, like maybe I've got one guide called Gita, and I could speak to her about parts of my work that I want to either improve or question or ask her to help me with, so I can speak to Gita about that, and it's a two-way conversation. Having another guide who I speak with quite regularly as well. So it depends. For my work, I would speak to my guides and my team, but for anything else in life, I would first go to my higher self.
Okay. And the next question maybe one of those rare ones that we just don't see on other shows. And maybe it's not answerable, maybe it is. But for your higher self, soul, the big Karen, I don't know how to describe it. Have you had any encounters where you are able to, I don't know, dream time, you got to see yourself one way, or eyes open, aurora borealis in the sky, you saw your soul? Is there any extra flavor you can do on that front, besides just listening?
No, because you can't put it into words. It's not, it's a feeling. So I think sometimes when people start to try to see things with their human eyes, it just doesn't work like that because it's spirit. So I feel it's everything's about the feeling in the spirit world. Of course, we don't have anything physical. So yes, we can see colors and we can feel colors even. We can feel colors, we can feel light, we can feel warmth, which I've felt when I've been meditating or when I've been communing with the guides, yeah, you feel the warmth, you feel the heat, you can kind of do it that way. But really, again, I feel personally like we look for too much. Just be, just be in that space, just feel everything, feel your inner self, feel your higher self.
Lovely. In a second, not quite yet. I'm going to offer one thing before this. We'll talk about integrity in the whole spirituality industry. Your position, I think, currently still as director of the ISS MPI, and you'll explain what that is in a second. But is it okay if I light sage in Texas and blow it through the screen to you in Scotland? Would that be okay?
You can do that, yes.
Okay. And I might ask if it's okay to put my hand up and see if we feel energy across the pond, as they say. And that'll be the last woo woo or big step thing for the show. But this is just Sage. If you're just tuning in, great time to like, share, comment, even subscribe. What have you enjoyed about Karen? And an emoji counts. If you're shy at all, that emoji actually means a lot and it helps somebody else at least put an emoji down. But what have you related to is a great way to put this. And what have you enjoyed hearing about? Okay, a little bit of sage from California, Juniper Ridge, to give a plug to the company. I'm not sponsored, but I should be. Okay, here's the sage, and allow at home. Are you catching a little bit of sage in the air?
I feel the energy of what you're doing, yes.
Okay, good enough. Whoop. And I'm going to snub this out so we don't have wisps blowing everywhere. And Karen, last thing, do I have permission to just put a hand or two up? Hopefully high, love and above, bubbly self, and you can feel the energy either with all of you or you put your hand up. Would that be okay as well? Last crazy
I
thing.
will, I will be able to feel the energy of it, yes.
Okay, awesome. Here it goes, but I'm going to tell one dad joke to keep this light, and this is not a great one, but it should still get a laugh. What's the only flower found on the human face? Tulips. It's bad. And what are you feeling, or what adjective would you like to use?
It's strange because as soon as I speak with someone, either on a screen or in person, I tune into their energy anyway. So I feel your energy as we talk or as we communicate, and I'm already in it.
Cool. Okay, tell us about the ISS MPI and the gist behind it.
I've not done work with them for quite some time, only because the head of the ISS MPI hasn't been working at the moment, just due to personal bereavements and things like that. So we've not done anything together for quite some time. But when I'm still in touch with them, and we talk. But I got involved with that because also, I don't know if you've heard of Helen Duncan. Helen Duncan was a Scottish medium who passed away through her work because of the way that she conducted her work. She was a materialization medium, and the government didn't like it, and she was jailed, and she was charged. And our granddaughter, who I'm very much in touch with, still to this day tries to get her name cleared. And Jock, who is the head of the ISSMPI, is very involved with that as well. So we kind of came together under that whole thing about Helen Duncan. And it really, the ISSMPI, it's about taking the nonsense out of things, and really the evidential mediumship. And that is something that I feel very strongly about within my work. There's not, especially now with the social media and the platforms and everything else, there's a lot out there that kind of I feel takes it away from the purity of spirit. And that is why I got involved with Jock with that when I did. And at some point in the future, I'm sure, we'll be back up and running. But for now, I really just work myself and get out there and do the work.
And paralleling what you just said about, let's say we'll call it manifesting, which is a really popular term these days, but can you just slice right through it for the audience and help them breathe easier, relax? And how can they dream big and allow the universe to bring it in? What's the Karen Docherty way of explaining it all?
For me, it's quite simple. It's just being in the energy of what your thoughts and feelings are, trying to keep the negative out. Because there's a lot, again, you hear about cosmic ordering, the secret, manifestation and all of these things. And yes, whilst I firmly believe that we can bring those things to us, I don't feel it's easy. I think that life gets in the way and thought processes get in the way, because let's face it, if we could all just do it as quick as that, then we would all nobody would need anything. We would have everything we wanted. So again, it's simplifying it by saying, live within your soul power, stay within your soul power, keep your thoughts positive. If you want something, put it out there that you have already received it, that kind of thing. So much the same as the secret in cosmic ordering. But for me, it's about understanding that and understanding you can manifest, but you have to be very careful, because there's a lot of people out there who will say they've tried that and their life's not going the way that they wanted it, or they're not able to manifest, and how can it be so easy for one and not for me? And I think really we'll have to step back a little bit and try to make people understand that they have the power within them to change things. They have the power that they can tap into to manifest things in their life and change things in their life. But it has to come from them as well. I think there's too much emphasis also on how easy it is to manifest. Just manifest, just close your eyes and manifest. It just doesn't work like that. So again, understanding your own power, your own higher self, who you really are, is what's going to set you on that path of changing things and bringing things to you and attracting things to you.
And we will start wrapping up in just a little bit, but do you have a specific example or two where you've wanted it to come in and it came in? I don't know what the right lingo or the words to use here, but it happened and you wouldn't mind sharing it. And you might have been just caught off guard at how amazing it was. Do you have one of those examples you could share with us?
My example of that would be just before, well, not long before my mum passed away, her and I sat and had a conversation about my work and where it was going. And I kept saying to her, I feel like I'm connected to America. I've never been, I'd never been to America, and I didn't know anyone in America. And I said to her, I don't know why, I just feel I have a connection there. And, if it comes, it comes. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And she said, well, my mum was a great believer in the law of attraction and everything and manifestation. And she said, well, you've just to put it out there and that's the way it is. And so we had that conversation and that was done. After my mum passed away, which was about maybe a year later, I all of a sudden got this call from someone in America to have a reading. And that was the first person I'd spoken to in America. So anyway, I'd done the reading and she said, that was wonderful. I'm going to book in again, which she did a few months later. And then she said, you need to come here. This is where you need to be. And you're going to know lots of people, which has all happened since then. And for me, that was all about having the conversation with my mum, putting it out there, having the faith, having the belief that, well, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I believe it. I believe it's true. And for me, whenever I'm not asking for something, but thinking something's going to happen, or feeling like my work, I would like to take my work in a certain direction, or even personal life, I always just say to spirit, I know it's going to happen. I know it's coming, and I'm just going to sit back and wait for it. And I always use the analogy of, when you order a meal in a restaurant, you put your order into the waiter, the person will take your order. You don't need to know what's going on in the kitchen. You don't need to know how it's being made. You don't need to know all the details. You just know when it arrives. And that's how I feel about it. It's surrendering to it, it's putting it out there, surrendering to it, believing in it. Don't let that belief be swayed, and then waiting for it to arrive.
Unless you're Gordon Ramsay, but yes, for the rest. And lovely, great analogy or metaphor. Okay, what else would you want to offer to us? This is it. We're starting to wrap up. I'm going to have you, though, in a little bit, and I want to buy you time. Uh, if you have a favorite mantra or simple reminder for walking a smoother path in life, whatever that reminder is, if you could say it 3 times for us at the end, so people can have a chance to be a little bit of a psychic medium, or I'll just call it being in the heart to feel your vibe. So you'll repeat some mantra. It could be anything like I am love to more complex. Um, but before that, what else would you want to leave us with?
Well, my work as a medium is about connecting with spirit. Now, whether that's about connecting with loved ones, which is obviously the massive part of it, it's the evidential mediumship that people want and need. Because if I bring evidence forward of someone's mother, let's say, then they have that knowledge that life does go on and that there is an afterlife and that the mother's still here. And that's what my work is. And what that does is bring healing to people. And it heals wounds, but it heals wounds on both sides. It heals wounds for those in the spirit world as well, who still have emotion to deal with when they cross over. They don't want to miss us the same as we don't want to miss them. So there's always healing to be taking place on both sides. So my work as an evidential medium is predominantly that. But aside of that, to know who you are as spirit is a big part of my work as well. And that's what we teach in mentorships and such like. So I would tell people to, like I said at the beginning, try to understand who you are, try to understand your light, try to understand your power. Not enough people give themselves credit for the amount of power that they have within themselves. So that's what I would push forward for people so that aside of evidential mediumship, you maybe then don't need a medium to tell you things. You can find it for yourself.
And along the way, do you have any books, films that they could be fun or more as resource material? Particular authors you've enjoyed, whether it's the Gary Zukaps of the world, Don Miguel Ruiz, somebody out there. Do you have any that you typically recommend?
There's a lot of books. Silver Birch was a guide, and Silver Birch spoke through his medium, and there's a lot of teachings, the teachings of Silver Birch. So those books are amazing books. But there's also one that I read a long time ago called The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, and it's a true story, and it's by Annie Caden. It's a true story, and it's about a woman who loses her brother to spirit and they weren't speaking at the time and she's having a hard time coming to terms with it, and he starts to communicate with her from the spirit world, and what she done was journal it, write it all down, and it's her true story of what he tells her about how it is in the spirit side, what he's doing there, what happens when you go over, and it's a really excellent book.
I love it. Well, Karen, one last item here before we wrap up. A mantra, metaphor, a simple reminder for breathing easier daily. What is it? And do you mind saying it 3 times in a row so people can practice letting go and feeling your vibe?
Well, it's a mantra that I've used from when I was a little girl, and I didn't know where I got it from. And obviously, I do know that it's from spirit, but at the time, I was like, I don't know where I've got this from. But it's actually, I believe, in the Bible, but I didn't know that. I've not been brought up religiously at all. And it's by your light you shall be known. And before I say it 3 times, I want to explain it a little bit in that if you can understand what those words mean, it means that you will carry yourself in a more positive way through your life if you understand what the words mean. So I'll say it 3 times now. So, by your light, you shall be known. By your light, you shall be known. By your light, you shall be known.
Oh, truly beautiful. And thank you, Karen Docherty in Scotland. Thank you for being on the APL show or Angels, Positivity, and Love. Wonderful having you here. Wonderful meeting.
Thank you so much.